Good morning, Otters. I hope you had a good weekend. Today we are finishing off our shared write. Make sure you've got what you've written so far in front of you. We're not going to write the date in LO, we're just going to carry on from where we've got to. I would like you to pause me now and read through what you've written so far to remind yourself of where we're going to next. Okay then, so you should have read through that. We're just going to scroll down to where we got to on Friday. Now I just need to go back to my plan and remind me where I got up to. So we've done all of our opening and the build-up. We've written all of the problem. And now today we're going to be writing the resolution, and then we're going to finish off with the ending as well, because the ending is quite short. I think we can fit both paragraphs in there together. Looking at my plan though, it says, what plan does the hero come up with? So in my story, he's going to make a magic sword that will slice through the troll's thick skin. Because he's a blacksmith, that's what they make. And I thought if he makes a magical sword, it could just kill the troll on his own. He wouldn't even need to fight the troll. It says a 2-pair sentence to finish. Now I thought of some ideas, but I might change that in my actual writing. I'm not sure yet. So I chose anxious and nervous, impatient and excited, Smock watched as the magic sword, and then however I'm going to finish that sentence. And it says what happens to the monster. Well, my poor old monster, he gets stabbed by the magic sword and unfortunately he dies. But the monster does have to be defeated. Okay, he has to be defeated. That's the whole point of the story. And then just to finish off my story, I need to think about how the main character will feel when he walks back into town. What does he say when he gets to the Queen? And what is the hero's reward? So that's a really nice, short, sharp ending. First things first then, I've got to think about where my main character is. So, new paragraph, I need to indent. And in our story map, we had outside the dragon's lair, outside Smock's den we had. I'm going to tweak that slightly, so I'm still going to have outside. My monster is called Igor, so outside Igor's lair instead of den, and it needs a comma because it is a fronted adverbial. Outside Igor's lair, Smock took out. Now it cannot be a leathery cow skin because that does not fit in with my story of a magic sword. So instead, Smock is going to take out his blacksmith tools. Full stop. Okay. Pause me here. Have a think about where your main character is going to be. I suggest he's outside the den or the lair or the hideout, whatever you want to call it. And what is he going to take out to help him with his plan? Pause me here and write that sentence and come back when you're ready. Next sentence then is I need to show, not tell, how the main character is feeling. So in our story map, we had a shiver ran up his spine, his heart raced. Now, that shows me that he's worried without telling me that Crack was worried. I'm going for something along the same lines, but this time I'm going to have his knees wobbled and knocked together. Okay, all together. Full stop. Short, snappy sentence to get the reader's attention. Hopefully you've spotted my silly mistake. It's underlined it in red just to point it out to you. How have I spelt knees incorrectly? Hopefully you said I needed that silent K at the beginning. Okay, his knees wobbled and knocked together. My next thing, instead of his heart raced, I'm going to think about how else does your body show that you're nervous or you're worried. So your knees might wobble, your heart might race. I know. I'm going to have his palms, that's palms of your hand, became sweaty. Full stop. Again, another short, snappy sentence. Pause me here and have a go at those two sentences. So his knees wobbled and knocked together and his palms became sweaty. Have a go at them and then press play when you're ready to carry on. Next up, I've got to ask a question. In our shared write, it was, would he get out of this alive? And you know what? I'm going to magpie that. I really like that question. You could think of something else, and that is fine. So, would he get out of this alive? Is my next sentence. Oh, I hope you spotted those mistakes. If you haven't spotted those mistakes, pause me here and find them. Hopefully you spotted that I'm asking a question. Okay, would he get out of this alive? And when I ask a question, what punctuation do I need on the end? It's not a sentence, a full stop, it's a question mark. Right, I know my question mark looks a bit funny, but that's because of the font of the writing. And then I've made one more silly mistake. I've spelt wood wrong. Okay, it's not wood like you'd get it from a tree. It is this kind of wood. Oh, you lucky duck, wood. Would he get out of this alive? Have a go at that question. Don't forget your question mark. Pause me and then press play when you're ready to carry on. All right then, up next. Now we've got to describe about how or what my hero's plan is. So in our story map, it was carefully he's stuffed the skins full of herbs and spices. I'm still going to have carefully because he strikes me as a careful fellow. But this time he's going to be melting metal to make his sword. So carefully he melted the metal, and it's my noun which, where, who sentence. So my noun is metal, comma, which, and I'm going to say which was the strongest metal in the world. And I need another comma here because it's the end of my noun which, where, who sentence, comma, and added 2 drops of unicorn blood. This is going to be my thing that turns my sword from a normal sword into a magic sword. In fact, I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, and added 2 drops of magical unicorn blood. Okay, so I'm just going to read through that and make sure I've not made any silly mistakes. Carefully, comma, he melted the metal, which was the strongest metal in the world, and added 2 drops of magical unicorn blood. I'm happy with that. I didn't spot any mistakes, but I'm sure you'll let me know if I did make any. Pause me here and have a go at this sentence. Next up then, it's as a bead of sweat dripped down his forehead. I'm going to have this one. It shows how hard he's been working. He's getting a bit hot and flustered, and it could imply that he's nervous, a bit like his sweaty palms. So, as a bead of sweat dripped down his forehead. Okay, this is a comma because that's a very long fronted adverbial. He poured the metal into a cast to turn it into a sword. Full stop, because it's the end of my sentence. Uh-oh. I'm already seeing lots of red lines. I'm just going to scroll this up slightly so I can see it a bit better. That's a lot of mistakes, Miss Smith. Oh dear. Pause me here and see, can you spot all of my very silly mistakes? First things first, I'm going to have to go for these red lines. So as a bead of sweat dripped should have been an ED, not a T. I made this mistake the other day. I should have learnt from that by now. As a bead of sweat dripped down his forehead. What's wrong with forehead? That's how I spell the number 4. You're right, well done. It's not F-O-U-R, it's F-O-R-E, forehead. So as a bead of sweat dripped down his forehead, comma, he poured the metal into a cast to turn it into a sword. Why doesn't that like how I've spelt sword? Because we've been talking about swords lots and lots because it's defeating the monster tail. I definitely should know how to spell it by now. Hopefully you've all spotted it because you should know how to spell sword by now. It's got a W after the S. Well done. Pause me here and have a go at this sentence, then press play when you're ready to carry on. Now we're moving on to my main character, Smock, when he's approaching the entrance to the lair. So think about, how is your character going to be moving? I'm going to see if I've got anything in my plan. Nope, I don't, so that's not very helpful. I'm going to have to try and do this from memory. So having a think of our story map with the actions. In the original story, it was silently and stealthily. Now, I like stealthily, so I'm going to magpie that, but I'm not going to have silently. What other word could I have instead of silently? Something that means the same thing, probably. I'm going to go for quietly. Quietly and stealthily. Now, this is my double ly starter, so what punctuation do I need to put after my double ly? It's a comma. Well done. Quietly and stealthily, comma. Smock approached the entrance. We'll still keep that. And he's still going to throw his sword down, okay, because that's what he's doing. There's no other way for me to get that sword into there. And threw his sword down. Full stop. I have not spelt sword incorrectly because we've already corrected it up here. I shouldn't be making that mistake again. So quietly and stealthily, comma, Smock approached the entrance and threw his sword down. Pause me here, have a go at this sentence. Don't forget that comma after the double ly, and come back when you're ready to move on. Right then, now we're going to have a bit of speech in a moment. It's when he's backing away slowly from the cage, the cave. So I'm still going to magpie that fronted adverbial. So whilst backing away slowly, comma, this is when he talks to himself. He's still going to mutter under his breath. So as he muttered under his breath, you could have he whispered, you could have he thought, but I like he muttered under his breath. Muttered under his breath. And now it needs a comma because it's right before some speech. And instead of dinner time, my beauty, which was in our story map, that wouldn't make sense here because unfortunately he's not about to eat a meal, he's about to get stabbed by a sword. So instead I want something equally as threatening, and I've gone for prepare to meet your maker. I was going to put an exclamation mark. Yeah, I will. I know he's muttering it under his breath, but it is a bit of an exclamation. And I need that closing speech mark. Are we happy with this sentence then? Whilst backing away slowly, comma, he muttered under his breath, prepare to meet your maker. I hope you're not happy with it. I've made another silly mistake. I am missing my opening speech mark here, where Smock starts to talk. I don't need to start a new line here because he's not going to have a conversation with somebody. All right, so there's not going to be another speaker. We're going to carry on like we have been. Pause me here and have a go at this sentence and then come back for the next bit. Well done, guys, for sticking with me for this long. I know it's quite long, but we want to get this story finished today so we can write our own in the next couple of days. This time now, Smock is waiting to see what will happen, and I've got to think about how he will be feeling stood watching this, and I think he's going to be nervous. So my next fronted adverbial will be nervously, my ly starter. If it's an ly starter, it needs a comma after it. So nervously, Smock watched as the sword. Now, it can't be as the dragon devoured every morsel because he's not eating something. So I've had to change this bit quite a lot here. So instead, it's nervously, Smock watched as the sword flew through the air and began to move on its own. My sword is magical and it's going to just kill the troll all by itself. I've made a silly mistake though. It's quite subtle, and let's see if you can spot it. So nervously, Smock watched as the sword flew through the air and began to move on its own. It's through. I've spelt it as in to throw a ball, not to go through something. So I need to change it to that one. Pause me here, have a go at this sentence, and then press play when you're ready to finish this paragraph. Right then, now we're going to have our two-pair sentence to describe how Smock feels when he watches the dragon get killed. Now, I'm going to go for surprised because he didn't think it was going to work. Surprised and delighted, he's happy it's happened, comma, at the end of that pair. Surprised and delighted, overjoyed, which means really happy. Oh, how if I spell it properly? Overjoyed and proud, another comma at the end of my second pair. So surprised and delighted, overjoyed and proud, Smock watched the sword slice through the air, and I did say stab the evil troll, but on my plan, what did I have? I did say get stabbed by the magic sword and die, so I could just go for that as well. Okay, so Smock watched the sword slice through the air and stabbed the evil troll! Exclamation mark. Just got to go back up to this sentence because it doesn't like this one. I've made a mistake there and I didn't correct it. Surprised and delighted, comma, overjoyed and proud, comma, Smock watched the sword slice through the air and stab the evil troll. Now this is the end of my resolution, and then we've just got the ending to do. So pause me here, have a go at this sentence, and then press play when you're ready to finish it off. Right then, because the ending is quite short, I'm going to do it all in one go, and then you can pause me and have a go at your ending, rather than do it a sentence at a time. New paragraph needs an indent, and I'm going to go back to my plan to help me. At the bottom it says, adverb, how does the main character feel when he walks back into town? I did have arrogantly. I'm going to change that actually because he's a bit too kind to be arrogant. I'm going to go for proudly. Remember in our model text it was triumphantly he strode into town. This time I'm going to have proudly, comma, the blacksmith strolled, not strode, strolled back into town, or back into the city, whichever you prefer. Full stop. Now then, we have a bit of speech here, and I'm going to go back to my plan, and it says, what does the hero say? So I did it, I'm here to claim my reward, announced Smock with a grin on his face. I'm going to go for that, because why not? So open speech marks, because I already had that on my boxing app. I did that bit already. I did it! Exclamation mark. I'm here to claim my reward. Comma, close speech marks. And how did I say that the blacksmith had said this? Announced Smock with a grin on his face. I'm going to keep that, why not? Announced Smock, capital letter because it's his name. Smock with a grin on his face. Right, we're nearly there, last sentence, so let's go back to my plan, and then I've got to remind the reader what the hero's reward was. So remember, it was the Queen giving him the reward, so the Queen, comma, because I'm going to add some extra information, honouring her word, comma, that's a subordinate clause. I could get rid of that bit and it'd still make sense. The Queen, honouring her word, gave him £10,000, and I'm going to magpie this from the text, and renamed the city, comma, something after him. What could she rename the city for Smock? Let's have Smocken. Why not? So the Queen, honouring her word, gave him £10,000 and renamed the city Smocken after him. Full stop. That is the end of my story. So all of this was my ending. Not too long, but there is some speech in there, so be careful. When you're ready, you may pause the video and write this ending on your own. Once you've finished this ending, I need you to read back through not only what we've written today, but all of our shared right. And again, check for those silly mistakes. Maybe if you've got an adult at home, you can ask them to read through it with you, because sometimes it's helpful to read it out loud to somebody else to spot your mistakes. Tomorrow, when you come back for English, we will be planning our own hot write, so you can start thinking of some ideas of what we'll be doing for that. Right, and good luck finishing this story, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Bye.